I'm sure most of you watching have known about the whole Ferrari leaving Formula One to join kart scenario in the mid 1980s when Ferrari wasn't pleased about the cylinder limitations and the removal of turbochargers for the 1987 season that the FIA were going to introduce. Ferrari obviously never ended up leaving Formula One, but the car that they were going to use in the kart series would be used by Alfa Romeo to test their new engine for their brief entry into kart. Their program lasted 3 years and ended with a bang. In 1989, it would be fielded by Alex Morales Motorsports with Roberto Guerrero as the driver. Now, the engine wasn't ready until Detroit, meaning it missed the Indy 500. They would record 2 points finishes by season's end, and the project would move to Patrick Racing for 1990. Not the Patrick Racing that became Chip Ganassi, but the second iteration of Patrick Racing. They'd record a highest finish with Roberto Guerrero, but the engine was still uncompetitive. And maybe Alpha thought this, or just Pat Patrick himself, that it would be more competitive with Danny Sullivan in the car, who was let go by Penske. The program would get better. Sullivan would score multiple top 10s and finish 11th in points, but despite the top 10s, the car and the engine were still relatively uncompetitive. Need I add, they also switched to the Lola chassis, which was the best chassis on the grid. Now, Patrick Racing would be sold to Carl Hogan and Bobby Rahal, resulting in Rahal Hogan Racing, which would currently turn out to be RLL. They would pick up the Chevy Ilmore 265As, ending the Alfa Romeo engine program. Now, considering the Alfa Romeo engine program is the main topic of this video, you might wonder why the program ended. Now, at the end of 1991, Pat Patrick, owner of Patrick Racing, was able to sign Bobby Rahal for the 1992 season, who was one of the best drivers in the field. He was fresh off a second place in the championship and had only finished outside the top 3 out of the 10 seasons he ran in kart up to this point. His first 2 seasons for Krakow and later Gallus Krakow Racing, which would become Gallus Racing after they'd split, and his second season in kart. He'd finish 5th in 1983, 9th in 1989, and 4th in 1990. Now, Patrick's contract with Alfa Romeo was up, so Pat went to get some engines from Ilmore, who had had the best engine on the grid since 1988, the mentioned 265As. Well, Mario Illin turned him down, so he was going to go to Newman Haas to get their Ilmore engines, as Newman Haas would switch from the Chevys to Ford Cosworth for 1982. Now, Mario Illin made it clear that even if he got the engines from Newman Haas, they wouldn't give him the electronics, so the engines would be useless. You might wonder why that is. Well, let's go back to when the program really started, especially under the Patrick Racing outfit. Alfa Romeo used the Ferrari chassis to test their new engine for their new car, which March would develop. Instead of reusing the Ferrari assets, as they were both under the Fiat banner, and that's the reason why they used the Ferrari chassis to test the engine in the first place. Now, Alfa Romeo built this engine from the ground up, or so everyone thought. Alex Morales Motorsports would later become the new Patrick Racing, so it was basically the same team. However, Pat Patrick had Ilmore engines from the last 3 seasons as a part of the first Patrick Racing, the one that would later become Chip Ganassi Racing. Now, I don't know if it was because they saw how bad the Alfa engine was during its stint in 1989 or otherwise, but Pat had sent one of those engines to Italy in November of 1989 for Alfa Romeo to use for their engine. Well, actually, according to Pat, it was sent by Chip, Jim McGee, and Morris Nunn, which were the 3 other men he was working within the team. The latter two would remain at the new Patrick Racing, and it was alleged they sent this engine to Alfa Romeo while he was on vacation. Did I mention that the engine was returned to Ilmore in pieces? Don't think so. From Indy 500 winners together to enemies within 2 years, Patrick was running out of options. In fact, he was out of options. Bobby Rahal had learned from the end of his stint at True Sports when they ran the reliable, fuel-efficient but slow Judd engine. There was a contract stipulation that stated Bobby would only drive the Chevy Ilmore engines or else the contract was done. Facing the problem of the fraudulent activities that took place, combined with the fact that the team was in financial trouble, Patrick would sell the team to Carl Hogan and Bobby Rahal. Rahal would keep the Lola chassis, and he would get the Chevys included in that original contract. When I say he kept the Lola chassis, he didn't keep the Alfa Romeo chassis, he kept the Lola chassis. And in his first season as an owner-driver, he'd win his third and final kart championship, as well as his final race in the kart series. If you guys enjoyed that video, hit that like button, subscribe. We had very good fanfare from the last video. Sorry about the lack of uploads. I know I already addressed this in the last video, but I hope you guys are having a good day. See you later. Bye. Peace.